As another example, let's say I write a rule for the main ID for a larger size font. The font would also apply for the child because the article is inside that selection. So anything that lines up again in the same line, the header, the section, the footer, are considered siblings and do not use each other's rules. Next, when using class selectors rules, which can be used more than once per page, any rule that I write that has that same class name will use that rule that I write. So example, if I have 3 div classes that I name photo box, and I have a dog photo in the first one and a cat photo in the second and a people photo in the third, I can write a CSS rule for the class, which is photo box, and change the black background color to blue. And what it would do is it's going to change the background color to blue for all 3 div boxes because of the class name. Also remember with classes, when you are in CSS, you start the class name with a period, which when we use Dreamweaver, the CSS designer, it will automatically do that for you, but you still need to be aware that that's a class and that you can do it on more than one box, and that any box that you do it on, you write the rule for it and it will change anything with that class name. Next, number 7, let's talk again about float properties. Okay, a left float attaches the box to the left edge of a container. The other content that you have after it will just go to the right. So example, here is, let's say, a left float, okay, and any other content will go to the right of it. So anything like text. Now, if I have right float that attaches to a box, what's going to happen is it's going to attach to the right side of a container, and any other content like text will be to the left-hand side. And these have kind of moved for some reason. I'm not sure why, but so it would be more along the lines of like that. I'll get it right yet. There. Okay, so that if you want a middle box on a float equally between the left and right float boxes, put auto left and right margins on your center box, or equal numbered, like 100 pixels each, left and right margins on the middle box, and that will float your center box equally between the left and right float boxes if you have created a left and right float. And also, one more thing, you're going to have to make sure that all 3 boxes are small enough to fit right next to each other, like the one chapter that we had where one box was too big and we had to make it smaller so they would float both on the same line. So don't forget about that. Number 8, it is possible to incorporate 2 class rules on the same HTML tag. This was a new one to me, and it's something new in Dreamweaver. You can actually have 2 separate class names in the same rule, in the same HTML tag. And I've given you an example right here of image class equals, and the first rule is image 150 pics with a space. The second rule is image float right, which is the second class rule that they wrote. And you will do this, so spend time on pages 236 to 238 if you want to see how it works. It's really, really cool. It's something I didn't know existed, and I will talk more about it as we're doing the lesson. Another thing that you're going to be introduced to is number 9, an iframe. What an iframe allows you to do is it allows you to insert a one-page web page into another web page. It works really slick, and we will be doing that as well. Number 10, we're going to be working with online forms, which is used to collect user information and then transfer that information to a web server. Your hosting site will have scripts that you can pick from to use in Dreamweaver for that particular web server that you will also incorporate into your scripting. You are able to create many different types of forms in Dreamweaver. Please read the green box on page 243, Form Properties, which talks some about it. Reading form properties will help you understand your options in depth when you design the forms. Also, there are like 3 pages, 247, 248, and 249, just chock full of information about what the different form elements are and how they work and all the different changes that you can make to them. It is very important that you read those pages as well. It talks in great detail about all the different fields and how you can control them. So take time to go through that. Next, let's talk about menu, which are drop-down boxes and lists that are used in forms that display options for a user to select one or more responses. Menu drop-down lists are a great way for a user to select, for instance, the state that they live in as an example. You're going to start working on those on page 250. Individual checkboxes are another interesting form element, and they have what's called an on or off state. That means when they're checked, they're on. When they are not checked, they're off. You can also, with those, create what's called a checkbox group, which is simply a group list of checkboxes with values for each of the field names. So if you need to have more than one checkbox, by all means, build them. If you do not define the value of a checkbox, we'll get more into that as we do it, but what's going to happen is you will see a value of off if they are not checked. You will see a value of on if they are checked. So don't forget about that. Number 12, every form has to have a submit button. That submit button is where you program the information that you get in script form from the server. So very, very important to make sure that you get your scripting in. And they usually have a ton of how-to facts to do it, so it shouldn't leave you lost if you're actually trying to do one. You should also consider having a reset button. And the reason that you should consider having a reset button is many, many times people will be their normal selves and mess up a form. And what the reset button does is it clears all the form fields and lets them start over. So my recommendation is to be sure you have both on your form. Number 13, what I did is I just gave you some of the basic HTML tags that you're going to see in the form. Okay, the form opening tag, the form closing tag. You're also going to run into input, the tag that identifies each form object. Select, which is the tag that's used to create the drop-down menu. And label, and what the label does is that's where you're going to type the text in that the user sees and defines what that form field is for them. So make sure that you correctly type labels for each one of your form fields. 14, you can apply a clear property to a float. This is something we have not talked about yet, but we will be doing today. There's a left, a right, a both, or a none. So whatever side you apply the clear means that no other floating content can appear on that same side. For instance, if you apply a right clear, you cannot have any box on the right-hand side float to the box that you applied the right clear. Okay, so that is something also that we will be dealing with today. That kind of concludes the setup for getting into the program today, and hope you're having a good day, and let's get started.